All right. Well, thanks, Ben, for joining me today. I wanted to talk with you because your story is unique and I will let you tell it. I'm with Ben Lortz with Kester Construction in the Des Moines metro area. So, Ben, I'll let you take it away. Tell me about Kester, what you guys do. Tell me about yourself, your role, and what you do and how you got to what you're doing at
Yeah.
Kester.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Justine. Yeah, I'm with Kester Construction. We're a commercial general contractor based out of Des Moines, Iowa, but working nationwide. We're in about 20 states right now currently. Mostly we specialize in multifamily housing, quick serve restaurants, standard retail, kind of in those general industries. We've been in business for just over 40 years. Paul Kester, our founder, was fortunate enough to retire here this past year. So we're on to the second generation of Kesters running and owning the company. So it's an exciting time here at Kester with a lot of growth and great people around us. My role at Kester, I'm currently our CFO. I've been working on the operations side for the past 10, 11 years, and then just recently transferred full time over into our accounting department.
Okay, good to know. So your path, yeah, has been maybe a little bit different than what I'm used to, hearing because you did a bit of project management, things like that. So yeah, tell me about your career before you got to Kester and how you got there.
Yeah. So after I graduated college, got my CPA accreditation, worked with KPMG in public accounting, their audit team for a handful of years, and learned a ton there with that experience. A great company, but quickly learned that maybe public accounting wasn't where I wanted to spend the rest of my career. So started looking for other options in the private industry. Through some personal connections, I was able to speak with a couple of the family members here at Kester, and they gave me an opportunity to come on board, but with opportunity, go into the operations side of the business instead of going straight into the accounting department full time. So I got hired on here at Kester as a project coordinator just over 10 years ago, almost 11 now, and worked as a coordinator for a few years and then worked my way up to the engineering position. And then I've been a project engineer for about the last 6 years, running some of our work in state and out of state with a couple of good clients that we have. But the whole time I was on the operations side, I always knew my final goal was to be back in the accounting department here at Kester and work closely with our previous CFO, Mike, special projects or smaller tasks that I could, get my hands on and help out. So it was a great first 10 years here, kind of learning both sides of the business and really getting a full understanding of how operations and the accounting team work together.
Yeah, that's an incredible opportunity because not everybody gets to kind of do that, get really hands-on, I think, on both sides. And so I would think your job, for lack of better words, you're able to kind of maybe understand a bit more even about construction than maybe you typically would be if you were to just stay straight on the accounting path. I mean, historically speaking, too, there's always been a bit of contention between operations and accounting. And, what have you seen now that you've been on both sides? What are some tips you might have for folks that maybe are seeing that in their business or ways that you guys at Kester have collaborated well and stuff, so forth?
Yeah. Yep. That divide is really where my career lives right now, trying to be the bridge between the two departments. Like you said, I have a unique last 10 years, which has allowed me to, put a lot of energy and passion into being that bridge between the two departments. I think a lot of it comes down to, the accounting department. We're all about keeping accurate records, focused on expense reporting, profit loss. But from the operations side, it's a, every day you walk into a new fire, every day you're, worrying about schedules and quality control and everything that comes with building, a quality product on site. So when you get the accounting department, bugging you for an expense report or a budget update, those don't always come to the top of your priority list. So
That's about anywhere, probably.
exactly. You're worried about making sure something gets accomplished on site or, a conflict is resolved so things can keep moving. But what I've found very useful is that we just try to get both sides to the table, both departments at the same table. And we'll just go through and discuss, the implications of not doing a budget update timely or not getting your expenses in timely, and how that ultimately affects their projects just as much as keeping schedule on site. So a lot of the times we'll also bring a PM in and have them sit with the accounting team and say, okay, here's how your billings each month flow through this company. How does it affect our cash flow? How does it affect our monthly financial statements? How does that affect our shareholders and our stakeholders outside of the company, and what they're looking at monthly? So it gives them kind of the overall view of what one single project can do to the company's view on a monthly basis.
Yeah, that's great advice. Now, I always like to ask folks, specifically you have a unique path, right? So it's a bit different, but let's say somebody was in your position. Maybe they were in the auditing and, CPA side of things first and wanted to get into construction. Would you recommend the path that you took, going the PC route, the operations route, as a way to get into understand construction accounting even further and really have that good knowledge of how the teams work together? Any advice that you would recommend otherwise for somebody that's maybe looking to get into what you're doing?
Yeah, I think the cross training, if you want to call it that I received is going to be invaluable as I continue to work here in my career. I think there's maybe two different kinds of accountants. You could say one that has been in it, from start to finish, and maybe they don't have the understanding that what the other departments are doing. And then there's ones like me who maybe from a technical aspect, I haven't worked in the accounting role for 10 straight years to get that knowledge, but I have the business knowledge that allows me to, like we said, bridge those departments together. If anybody was in my shoes 10 years ago, I would 100% suggest they do that cross training, go work in an operations role for however long you can, because the more you know, the more knowledge you have. Knowledge is value. So the more valuable you're going to be to your company if you know the ins and outs of the accounting department, the operations team, the safety department, the tools and equipment department. The more you know about all those different departments and get to work with those people, that's where you provide the most value, I believe, to your company. And I feel like a lot of people, maybe in the accounting world, set limits for themselves as far as, I don't know operations. That's not my department. I don't know those roles.
Yeah.
When I came to Kester, I didn't know a lick about, commercial construction. I knew I could come into this role and work my butt off and work hard and hope that inexperience that I had would be overcame with the hard work I put in. And we preach here a lot, your hard work and your attitude is more important than your experience and knowledge in a lot of cases. So put your head down, believe in yourself, try new things, and ultimately that'll put you where you want to be down the road, I feel like.
I'm glad you brought up the hard work it took, because I wanted to ask you about that learning curve, because I assume maybe you generally knew how to read plans and things like that, but there was probably a lot that you weren't used to when it comes to the operation side of things. So it sounds like it was quite a bit of digging in and having to understand that, and then use the rest of your team too to help you learn stuff and make sure you're on point for your job.
Yep. And I came in and I did not know how to read a set of blueprints. I went to a Master Builders of Iowa course. They kind of gave me the groundwork for it. And I was fortunate enough to have some great mentors here that kind of brought me under their wing and answered all my silly questions. But construction is an industry where there's so much knowledge and information out there that if you want to work hard and ask the right questions and just dig in and be involved, people are there to teach you. And the plethora of information out there, you can, drink from a water hose, like we say, that's so much information coming after you. And if you want to invest the time, that the people are there to teach you. And I was fortunate enough to have that here. And you catch on, you ask some silly questions, people laugh at you a little bit and give you a hard time, and you move on, and it's all good. Yep.
There's no stupid question, right?
Yep. No, everybody starts here, with an experience, and that's what mentors are for. And that's been the best part about being here at Kester is there's some good mentors, and yeah, ultimately that's what it's all about.
Well, thanks, Ben, for joining me today on Construction Experts Speak. And if you like this content, hit follow on our Banger YouTube channel.
Thanks, Justine.